Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives have ridden that double-digit advantage basically for the last 12 months. Nothing that the Liberals have done has moved the numbers. The budget hasn't moved the numbers. State visits haven't moved the numbers. Announcements and spending hasn't moved the numbers.
The latest polls are out, and Trudeau's Liberals remain in the basement of approval ratings in the minds of Canadians. Nanos went so far as to ask Canadians whether bringing on Mark Carney would even make a difference. The short answer? Nope.
Let's take a look.
Parliament Hill this morning, where for months there's been speculation that former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney would be joining the Liberal cabinet. His name has even been floated as a potential successor to Justin Trudeau if the Prime Minister were to step aside. But a new poll from Nanos Research conducted for the Globe and Mail says the Trudeau government may not benefit from Carney being in cabinet. Joining me now to discuss is Nick Nanos, the founder and chief data scientist at Nanos Research. Hi there, Nick. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Marcia.
Tell us more about what you found when it comes to Canadians' opinions and favorability of the Prime Minister this summer.
Well, it's interesting. We tested on 3 individuals and whether people had positive or negative impressions of those 3 individuals. So those included Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney, and Chrystia Freeland. Chrystia Freeland being the Minister of Finance, Mark Carney being an individual that at least there's been some speculation as to Justin Trudeau trying to recruit him to come into cabinet, potentially even as Minister of Finance. And, the thing is that what's interesting is that when we ask Canadians, which of the potential candidates for the leadership of the Liberal Party would be most appealing, Justin Trudeau comes in at 9%, hasn't really changed much over the last while. None of the above, actually, Marcia, quite popular currently, as is unsure. Mark Carney comes in at 18 and Chrystia Freeland at 12. So, we're in a situation where, Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland do score better in terms of political appeal, but a significant proportion of Canadians either say none of the above or outright say that they're unsure who would be the most appealing as a potential leader of the Liberal Party of Canada.
That's a pretty pathetic lineup. But, we've discussed this before where Trudeau really does not have a successor, and he's done that on purpose.
Yeah, he's created a weak cabinet, surrounded himself with weak people. And, honestly, Pierre Poilievre could go over to the Liberal Party tomorrow and he would probably only score as high as Mark Carney. Why? Because the Liberal brand is completely poisoned at this point. And that's the problem. You see Justin Trudeau, 9%. That hasn't changed since December. So I think it's pretty clear that Justin Trudeau is not liked by Canadians. And Chrystia Freeland went from a dismal 18% down to 12%. And even Carney, as time goes on, people like him less and less.
Well, because he's kind of being touted as the natural successor, that he's going to come in and save the Liberal Party once Justin Trudeau is done, which is kind of what Justin Trudeau did.
Yes.
Right? So, honestly, I really do not know what they're going to do in terms of a leader, because in my opinion, at least, there is nobody in that party currently or that they're talking about that is a suitable successor.
I just want to see Trudeau stay with it so we can see them in the live debates and have him absolutely destroyed by Pierre Poilievre.
Oh, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, that's going to be phenomenal.
So if Carney were to join cabinet, potentially as the finance minister, would it change the Liberals' fortunes? Would it change the way Canadians view the Liberals right now?
Yeah, not likely. And the survey that we did with the Globe and Mail that was just released this morning, we asked Canadians whether the impact of Mark Carney kind of coming on board would make the Liberals more competitive, less competitive, or whether there'd be no impact. 39% of Canadians said no impact. Another 24% were unsure. 29% believed that a Mark Carney addition to the Liberal mix would make the Liberals more competitive and 8% less competitive. So, the reality is a significant proportion, the most popular response is that it would have no impact on the political fortunes of the Liberals. The other thing, Marcia, that's interesting, that 29% of Canadians who think that he would make the Liberals more competitive is kind of about the same number as Liberal support almost. So it will likely motivate Liberals, but as part of a growth strategy, it's still up in the air right now.
Speaking of growth, have you really seen, Nick, much change in the polls from, say, a year ago? How are the Liberals doing compared to the Conservatives?
Well, a year ago, last August, is when Pierre Poilievre started pulling away from the federal Liberals. By the end of the month, he had a double-digit advantage. And, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives have ridden that double-digit advantage basically for the last 12 months. Nothing that the Liberals have done has moved the numbers. The budget hasn't moved the numbers. State visits haven't moved the numbers. Announcements and spending hasn't moved the numbers. And, doesn't matter what happens, it seems like right now the trend consistently favors Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, and that they're enjoying a double-digit lead anywhere from 15 to 20 percentage points over the Liberals.
So bottom line on your polling, what do you think the solve is for the Liberals?
Well, adding Mark Carney to the mix would make the Liberals feel better, but it's not a gimme in terms of a winning or a growth strategy. So perhaps it's a step in the right direction for a party that's trailing the Conservatives, but we shouldn't. No one should hold up any hopes that this would be a massive game changer.
Good to see you today. Nick Nanos is the founder and chief data scientist at Nanos Research.
Here's the thing. The only thing that would have a chance of saving the Liberals is if they cut the carbon tax, they terminated a bunch of their spending on these programs.
They closed our borders.
Closed the borders, balanced the budget, reversed their crime bills. Basically took the Conservative program and implemented it. That's the only thing that they could do to do that. Now, the problem is if they do that, guess what's going to happen? All of their supporters are going to be jumping ship. So they're screwed.
Yeah, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't.
They are at a point here where it is inevitable.
Because if they do start repealing all this stuff that they've put in over the past 9 years, it's essentially admitting that they're wrong.
Right. And that could actually be just as disastrous for it, because all of the Canadians would be like, see, we told you.
Well, and they've dug their heels in so long, right? I mean, if it was something that they had tried for maybe a year and we saw disastrous consequences as a country, and then they said, you know what, this isn't working, we're sorry, we're going to fix it right now, that's different. But they've just completely let things run away the past 9 years, and then they've dug in their heels to say, no, we're right in these policies. To repeal them all right now, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Not for the party. I'm not saying it wouldn't work for Canada. I'm saying for the party.
No, it wouldn't work at all. And throwing Carney in there, I think it's a very good observation that Nanos makes. He's like, okay, so, about the same people, amount of people that say that, yeah, having Mark Carney on would be great, is about the same as the polling numbers for the Liberals at that point. So great. So the Liberals that are committed to voting Liberal think that adding Carney would be a good addition. Great. It doesn't really change the needle, and that's the thing. Plus, what is Carney going to do with essentially the fall session and the winter session? What is he going to do? Nothing.
I think it would hurt his brand, the Mark Carney brand, if he were to jump onto the Liberal bandwagon right now. I think what needs to happen is that they need to fail spectacularly in the next election, and then if he wants, he can come in and be the savior.
Yeah, you if you're planning on rebuilding a house, you don't jump into the current one that's on fire and burning to the ground.
Right.
So if he has any aspirations of being the leader of the Liberal Party, the first thing he should do is sit on his hands and wait for the fire to go out. And then you start digging through the ashes and pulling out pieces that you can use, and then you move ahead. But, the issue with Carney is I don't really see him as a very charismatic guy.
No.
He comes across as very elitist.
Yes, absolutely. He, I think, is too quiet from what I've observed. I don't want to compare him to Harper, because I think Harper was a fantastic prime minister. But Harper he didn't have that charisma. He's not like Pierre in terms of interacting with the
No,
media
he's just
and the
a different
public.
type of leader.
He's just very intellectual.
Yeah.
I don't even think Carney has that.
No, he has experience running, billion-dollar corporations and buying pipelines, but then coming to Canada and telling us our pipelines are bad.
Right.
So, but there you have it. It doesn't matter what happens if Carney is in or out. The polls are telling the story that it is inevitable, absolutely inevitable, that in the next election that the Liberals go crashing down and we're going to end up with a Conservative majority government. The only question is how big. Now, before we go, we're going to be dropping a spectacular interview tomorrow morning with Franco Terrazzano from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. We had a phenomenal conversation with him, and it's not as dry as you would think it is.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Franco is a phenomenal guy. He doesn't lean left or right. What he's interested in is lower taxes and facts. And that's what you'll see in that interview. So check it out tomorrow morning. And I think you'll enjoy it as much as we did.